Welcome to the night shift. We are looking at MLB opening lines for Saturday, June 24th. I'm Ian Cameron for Sportsbook Review. Joining me, filling in for Drew Martin today, is Peter Loshak, who was with me last Friday, I believe, doing the night shift. We're going to get right to a game that Peter says has already caught his attention, caught his eye for Saturday's card. Peter, what game would that be?
All right. Well, it is game two in the series that I was thinking might be a good value on the home team each of the three games, and that is Baltimore against Tampa Bay, right? Baltimore, of course, terrible on the road, minus 35% ROI on the road. Now, at least some of that has to do, I'm sure, with variance and luck, but I'm sure at least some of it is fundamental. They're also a team that I think has been a little bit overachieving recently. Tampa Bay's been good at home, so I've been leaning towards Tampa Bay. I was before the series started, I was looking to bet on Tampa Bay in all three of the games, although I didn't touch the one tonight yet because the line opened so high. But the game that goes tomorrow on Saturday is Bundy against Faria, and that one might be even better value than the one that goes tonight because Bundy is clearly struggling, and Faria, of course, has had three starts. He's one of these rookies who's come out of the gate like gangbusters. Three awesome starts in a row. The question is, how long is that likely to last, and how much is it likely to continue for a fourth game here? My sense is probably somewhat likely, and probably more likely than not, Bundy continues to struggle. So this line opened at minus 149 at Bet Online. It's now up into the minus 150s overall, and I'm not sure if this will move. I think it probably will. My guess is that it probably closes closer to minus 170 market wide, maybe even minus 175. I think I jumped on it on the opening line. I got about minus 150. Took Tampa Bay minus one. If it doesn't move, I think it's probably a good bet, and I anticipate that it probably will move. What do you think, Ian Cameron?
I think it's got a potential to move because I just don't know what the betting markets are going to see that attracts them to the Baltimore side of this equation. Right. I mean, this is a team that's not hitting. This lineup has gone ice cold for weeks now. It's a starting rotation that has been decimated by injury, has not pitched well. The bullpen has been a complete shell of its former self without closer Zach Britton available to this Orioles team. It's just been cascading downward now, this free fall for the Orioles now for days and weeks on end, and it has no sign of showing up. And you talk about comparing the home road splits for these two teams. You've got Baltimore, one of the worst road teams in Major League Baseball, 11-23 this season, and you got Tampa 7 games above 500 at home, 23-16. So you look at it and take that into account, and then you take into account Jacob Faria, who has been just dynamite, just dominant in each of his first 3 starts with the Tampa Bay Rays. How about 4 walks and 22 strikeouts in 19.2 innings, 3 earned runs allowed in those 19.2 innings. Tampa's a perfect 3-0 in those Faria starts. And then you got Dylan Bundy, on the other hand, who started out the season pretty well, showed some promise, but lately, it's been tough for him. He's pitched a lot more like Al Bundy lately, not Dylan Bundy. It's been a real tough go for him. 6 runs in his last start allowed against the Cleveland Indians. Before that, he gave up 5 to the White Sox. Baltimore's not been winning with Bundy on the mound, just 1-3 in his last 4 starts. In fact, just 2-6 in Bundy's last 8 starts. So Baltimore just struggling. I don't know if they're going to get much attention here in the betting markets. I would think Tampa Bay will take some money, but odds makers are already on to the mismatch between these two starting pitchers and the fact Tampa has been very good at home. Baltimore's been terrible overall of late. Odds makers onto that, pricing this at minus 160 right off the hop. So in terms of big-time movement, I don't think we'll see a ton of it, but I don't think we'll see much Baltimore money either.
Right. I mean, Faria in his first start in the majors was at home against the White Sox, and that one closed at minus 170. So obviously the odds makers and the betting public are not shy about putting money on him, and obviously that has paid off handsomely in the last 3 starts. The big question of this game is, are we suckers for just blindly expecting it to be to him to have a 4th good start in a row? I think he probably will have another good start in a row, 4th good start in a row here for Faria. What do you think?
I think until he gives you an indication that, he's not getting swings and misses, and he's got electric stuff right now. There's no question about it. I mean, 1.37 ERA, Peter, for Faria so far, and the FIP is right in line with that at 1.51. That tells me there's nothing fluky about what Faria is doing. He's clearly deceiving opposing hitters. He's getting swings and misses. Very impressive stuff from him. How about over 10 strikeouts per 9 innings? That's just absolutely outstanding. I mean, these hitters aren't catching up to any of Faria's pitches right now. He has been getting swings and misses, 12.4% swinging strike rate. That is above average. So good signs for Jacob Faria. And with Baltimore, a very, very free swinging lineup. Let's be honest. There's a lot of guys that swing out of their shoes here with this Orioles lineup. This could be a bad matchup for them here.
All right, I predict that this line will close at least in the minus 170s. I already bet it at -1 when it opened at about the minus 150, and I hope I cash for that. Ian Cameron, what are your opening lines that you want to bring to our attention?
I see Jim Bean, by the way, in the chat says he's on Baltimore tonight. I don't totally argue with tonight being on Baltimore because Chris Archer's overvalued. He's not pitched to the level of the price that he's commanding, in my opinion, in that game on Friday night. So, you know, Baltimore, I think at that price, I know Jimenez tough to trust, but worth a shot, I think, at that price. No argument there, Jim
I was looking to bet Tampa Bay, but then when I saw the line, I was off it. I am on the over 9 in tonight's game in Baltimore, Tampa Bay.
It could happen. I mean, you've got bullpen issues with Baltimore for sure, pitching issues. Jimenez, who knows what you're going to get, so could see runs there. I'm going to start off Saturday by looking at the Cubs-Marlins matchup. Got John Lester and Justin Nicolino, two lefties, battle of southpaws in this one. I don't like what I'm seeing as much lately from John Lester. He's really labored last couple starts. I know some of those results don't look too bad, but, you know, he's only pitched 3.16576. He's labored. He's gutted his way through some of these starts, really struggled against the Padres. It'll say only 2 runs allowed in 6 innings, but he was in trouble in a lot of innings, got out of trouble, left guys on base, stranded a lot of base runners. It hasn't been a sharp, crisp John Lester last few starts, and Miami's definitely given him some troubles as well. I mean, last 2 starts against the Marlins since 2015, 8 runs allowed in 12 innings, and Justin Nicolino is a guy that I think is walking into a bad matchup here. This Cubs lineup against lefty pitching has been pretty darn good this season. 5.5 runs per game for this Cubs team against Southpaws, 252 team batting average. Justin Nicolino got absolutely crushed his most recent start back in the Marlins rotation against Washington. Didn't even escape 3 innings, 6 runs allowed. I think we're going to see runs here. I like the Cubs team total initially over in this game. I think they're going to hit Nicolino hard. I'm not necessarily trusting Lester to shut down the Miami Marlins, who have been a little bit better at the plate lately. So looking maybe at the game over, but the Cubs team total over, absolutely. I'll have something on that prior to first pitch.
Yeah, I was thinking about that one as well. As you said, both these teams hit lefties very well. It is up at 9.5, which is a little bit kind of a high total, but you know, you might be right that and you might be able to line might get bet down a little bit. We might see 9s somewhere, and yeah, I got to be thinking that, you know, as vulnerable as Nicolino is and as good as the Cubs are against lefties, you know, the Cubs are just one of the worst teams in baseball in terms of ROI on the road, like minus 28% ROI on the road, and now you're giving them a huge road favorite line here against a team with some life to them. I would agree with you, Ian Cameron, and I also probably think that Miami is just too big of a dog here, and I have to assume that this line is going to go down at least a little bit from where it is in the plus 160s.
And that's why I love derivative markets, Peter, like team totals. I don't even have to worry about laying that outrageous price with the Cubs, because I agree. They're overvalued. They're overpriced almost on a daily basis, and I can totally avoid having to do that. If I think they can still have success against an opposing team, opposing pitcher, I don't have to lay that monster price. I can look at a team total in this case, which is what I'm going to do with the Cubs. So always better ways to get after something rather than just looking at the money line.
Yes, completely agree with all of that. Ian Cameron, what else do you have for us?
Next one, I'm going to look at Pittsburgh, St. Louis, and I'm going to talk about Garrett Cole because I'm seeing signs of him really starting to turn things around a little bit. Garrett Cole obviously went through a stretch of starts in May where he got absolutely bashed throughout that entire month. I mean, May 22nd, 27th, and even into early June it lasted, where he gave up 5, 4, 7 runs in a 4-start swatch against the Braves, twice against the Mets and the Marlins. He's made some adjustments, and now last 2 starts, he's been looking a lot more like the Garrett Cole the Pittsburgh Pirates are hoping that they are going to see in the future. He's given up just 2 earned runs in his last 14 innings against Colorado and Milwaukee. 2 above-average lineups, in my opinion, especially Colorado's. They've been very good all season long, and to shut them down the way Garrett Cole did really is a positive sign. I'm seeing a buy sign, a bet on sign right now, Peter, for Garrett Cole right now. And on the flip side, Lance Lynn, I can't say I see that same potential for him right now. I know he's had a pretty solid season. He's pitched pretty well here at his home ballpark, Busch Stadium, 1.53 ERA. Some of these advanced numbers, though, indicate there's probably going to be a little bit of a bump in the road coming up for Lance Lynn, a little regression to be had. Maybe we saw signs of that last time out at Baltimore, which tattooed him for 7 runs in just 4.2 innings of work. We'll see if Pittsburgh can do some damage. He has gotten good results against Pittsburgh recently. That's the one concern. But at this price, where you can get Pittsburgh and Garrett Cole as a road underdog here, slight road underdog, I think there's a buy sign for sure on Cole. Who looks to be turning things around.
Cameron, not quite a slight road. You're getting like almost plus 120 here. I'm seeing 117s and 118s, and yeah, you know, Pittsburgh has been kind of negative in June, but St. Louis has been absolutely awful. And you know, I was looking for Pittsburgh to have some value in the last series on the road against Milwaukee, and early on that did happen. And then, you know, St. Louis, they got some wins against Philly, but they didn't quite dominate in the way that you might want to look for them to dominate against a team like Philly. So I'm in agreement with you here on that one. Nice call, Ian Cameron. It didn't jump out to me at first glance, but after hearing your analysis and looking over my notes for this series, totally in agreement with you, Ian Cameron.
Yeah, and exactly, and Pittsburgh won both of those games too. That with Cole doing the big turnaround. So 2-0 since this turnaround for Cole started. I think they got a chance to make it 3-0, and you get a plus price to go with it. Why not? Next one. How about this series? I can't wait for this series. This whole series, I'm going to be keeping an eye on it. NL West showdown, Colorado, LA Dodgers. Everybody seeing, wow, can the Colorado Rockies stay in this NL West race? Do they have what it takes to go toe-to-toe with the Dodgers for the 162 games and still be in it in September? Didn't have a great series at home against Arizona, but Colorado on the road, boy, oh boy, have they been ever impressive this season. There's a tremendous road record, tremendous profits for their backers, one of the biggest profit producers this season as a team in Major League Baseball. They've been at their best on the road, so they're going to be catching big prices here in this series and including in this game. And I will say this, we've got Clayton Kershaw on the mound for the LA Dodgers, and I know he's Clayton Kershaw. I know how good of a career he's had. He's been one of the best pitchers, and if not the best pitcher in Major League Baseball for years. But he has been priced this year, once again, like he is pitching just as well as he did 2 years ago, last year, 2 years ago, 3 years ago, when if you dig underneath the surface a little bit, this is still a very, very good Clayton Kershaw. This is not anymore a lights out, dominant. You can't even touch him with a 10-foot pole, Clayton Kershaw, anymore. I don't think he's quite that guy right now, because you look at some of his advanced numbers, Clayton Kershaw, last year, ERA 1.69, FIP 1.8. Everything in line. Everything looked great. Walks per 9, less than 1. Strikeouts per 9, above 10 last year. This year, strikeouts per 9, still above 10, but slightly down. Walks per 9, a huge jump. 0.6 last year, 1.48 walks per 9 innings so far this season for Clayton Kershaw. Ground ball rate down slightly. Home runs per fly ball rate goes from 7.5% last year to 19.1% so far this season. The fly balls and the home runs that he's given up this year, way more so far than last year. ERA 2.61, that's up from last year. And the FIP, the fielding independent pitching, 1.8 last year, 3.55 so far this year. That's almost a near 2-run higher FIP than what Clayton Kershaw had last year. Why am I mentioning this? Because you're paying for the same Clayton Kershaw right now in the betting markets that he's been priced at for last year, 2 years, 3 years ago, when he's not quite pitching at that same dominant level. So basically, read between the lines of what I'm trying to say. It's a Colorado or pass situation for me here with Chatwood.
Yeah, and actually to expand a little bit on what you were saying, I think maybe tonight's starter, Alex Wood, is pitching a little bit more like the old Clayton Kershaw than the current Clayton Kershaw is. That game, I definitely hit on the opener. I took the over 7, basically in agreement with what you just said. And actually, in Kershaw's last start, I talked about this with Matty Ice, my co-host on the morning shows, and Matt Ice bet against Clayton Kershaw in his last start, where he did give up 4 home runs. The Dodgers still wound up pulling it out, and I was on the over in that game. So I wouldn't disagree with your take on this game, like in Colorado, at this huge of a road underdog line. My pick, though, is on the over at just 7 with Kershaw starting. And, of course, even if Kershaw is lights out, it's not unthinkable that the Dodgers could get to a push or even a win just on their own against Chatwood. So I agree with everything you said, Ian Kershaw. Very astute analysis. My pick on this game, over 7. I assume you roughly agree with that as well, right?
I actually do. And you look at Clayton Kershaw, 2-0 in his last 2 starts to the over. I mean, both of his last 2 starts going up and over the total, 7-5, 10-6. Final scores really going up and over the total with ease. And again, you're going to get Clayton Kershaw games consistently, 6.5, 7, maybe 7.5 at absolute most in terms of totals when he's on the mound. There's going to be value right now because, again, this is still a very good Clayton Kershaw, but he's just not quite that Kershaw of 2 years ago, last year, 3 years ago, and the advanced numbers, the slight bump in the ERA, the bump in the home runs allowed, all of it points it out. All right, one more game to go through, and I agree with the over. Certainly wouldn't talk you out of that one. Detroit, Seattle. I'll tell you what, I can't make any case for the Detroit Tigers right now. This is a complete and utter disaster. The clock is ticking as far as I'm concerned on Brad Ausmus. He's going to be out of there. I think by the end of this road trip that Detroit's on out west, I think that's when they're going to pull the trigger on getting rid of him, because something's got to be done. This is a team floundering, falling apart right before our very eyes. Their starting pitching has been crushed on a routine basis, and Anibal Sanchez is not a guy that I trust to miss bats. He's a guy that has to rely on guile, positioning his pitches, working both sides of the plate. He just doesn't throw as hard anymore, and he's not a guy I trust for success now that he's back here in the Detroit rotation. His first start since rejoining the rotation at Seattle, 2 runs on 5 hits and 5 innings of work. You know, San Diego, to their credit, they've been competitive at times this season. They do have a better home record. They've almost 500, actually, San Diego at home, despite only being 12-26 on the road. Danielson Lamet is a guy that's really, really struggled. That would be a concern here for me. But to me, you got to look at the complete package here. Lamet's no good or better or worse than Sanchez. I understand that. But from a team perspective, Detroit, there's nothing to like right now. And even at even money, I think value still to go against the Detroit Tigers. This is a team that is just finding ways to lose games, whether it's not getting a clutch hit, getting poor starting pitching, a bullpen that can't get outs in the latter stages, and the manager on the hot seat. It's a mess. And now I'm hearing there's issues in the clubhouse, issues in the dugout with this Tigers team. So it's a team I want no part of, not even maybe.
Well, this is a game that I bet on the opening line. I actually made a bet on it, and my bet was on San Diego Padres. Ian Cameron, I'm in complete agreement with you. Yeah, I'm actually a little bit higher on Lamet right now than I am on Sanchez. He wasn't that great in the minors, and you know, I expect his subsequent starts in the majors to be worse than what we saw in his first start. And then, of course, I think San Diego right now has a pretty efficient bullpen. The Tigers have a terrible bullpen, bad road record. San Diego has a slightly positive home ROI on the year. And adding that all up and then factoring in the line of just, you know, minus 104, I took San Diego. So we're in complete agreement on that one, Ian Cameron.
It is. I mean, Detroit, if you've been fading them almost game in and game out, it's just a team that's the train has come completely off the tracks. We'll see if it continues here in San Diego. In theory, this is a team they could be able to beat, but got to show it to me first. And I think Padres in a good spot here to maybe take advantage of the Tigers falling apart as we speak. That's going to wrap it up for the night shift. Looking at the Saturday MLB opening lines, it's been fun. It's always great to do shows with Peter. Drew will probably be back next week, but to all of our viewers, good luck this weekend. Enjoy the games, and we'll be back next week.